Alright guys, just finished watching the last episode of Godzilla Singular Point, episode 13. Oh boy, there's a lot to unpack with this episode. So first off, I just wanted to clarify a couple things that I might have gotten wrong throughout this whole review thing. You guys remember, keep in mind, this whole thing was done in a first impressions, like literally right after I saw the episodes. So there wasn't a lot of time for me to digest and try to really figure out the details and all that stuff. So that's why I really made it painfully clear that this whole thoughts series on this anime was a first impressions thoughts video, not a review, analytical discussion, blah blah blah. So there are many things that I got wrong, names that I probably got wrong, all that kind of stuff. One of the things that I know that I got wrong in a lot of the episodes was the archetype. I kept on calling it an architecture. It wasn't that. It was an archetype. The other thing is that Gabra actually really wasn't in this. The monster that was actually in the show was actually called. Let me see if I can grab the name up here. The name was actually called Salunga, I think. So it's Sarunga Sharanga. So technically, I guess what this monster was a brand new monster, which honestly is really cool. Like, I'm okay with it not being Gabra. Like, it's cool that it's actually a new monster exclusive to the anime. I think that's great. But what it was, and I think the reason why I got so many of us talking about like Gabra's in it is because the design. And I guess the design actually was inspired by Gabra and Baragon. So it was actually kind of a mix. So that actually kind of makes sense, because then when we look at when Godzilla was introduced, when he came on land, he had Varen's head first. So I guess that was just a little design Easter egg. And then of course with the Megalon spider thing, that had like as elements of Gamacharis, Kumonga, Gigan, Hedora, like all that stuff. Like that was just a huge design egg or Easter egg thing, I guess. So that's like a couple of things. So a lot of like throughout the episode, I noticed I said like, well, Gabra's not here, or Gabra's here. That's just because I really just thought it was Gabra, and I really wasn't listening to the character saying that this was a different character, or a different monster. So that was my bad on that. But you can't really blame me, because it does look like Gabra, and it just, that was just kind of that. So the other thing that was really interesting is that actually this monster, I'm just gonna call him Gabra just because I don't know, just because I want to. But this monster actually never even fought Godzilla. This monster actually was completely separate to the events that was going on in Japan with Godzilla and all that, which I guess is kind of alright. But it was like a whole two different plot points, I guess, going on with those monsters. But Jet Jaguar gets to do his classic thing where he actually grows in size. I'm not even going to try and explain how the hell he grows in size from the diagonal organizer something whatnot, the oxygen destroyer thing, because apparently the code, and this is spoilers, obviously this is the final episode, so if you haven't watched it, I recommend watching it first. But spoilers is that the code was actually here all along, and it was through the robot, the AI that Yoon made. So that's what the signal was. The signal with that song had the code in it. Okay, I guess there's that. I'm still a little fuzzy on really what just happened in this episode. Like, everything when Jet Jaguar was like fighting Godzilla, which was a really cool scene. That was awesome. But Godzilla like blows Jet Jaguar up, and then all of a sudden everything just like really explodes, and then everything goes into like these blue crystals, which once again, I don't know if that's more of a nod towards Space Godzilla, who knows, but everything just goes back to normal, but now there's like blue spikes everywhere. So, like crystal spikes flying everywhere. I don't know what that means. So, it was a little disappointing that the Gabra monster didn't actually fight Godzilla. I really thought that they were going to be able to fight, but that's okay. I mean, he had his own stuff he was dealing with. But there was more science mumbo jumbo, but like the questions were answered. I guess. I'm definitely gonna have to either watch this show again, or maybe have to watch it multiple times, or watch a video essay or like a analysis video on really what happened, because there are things that I just flew over my head. I just really didn't understand, which is fine because, like I said, most animes do that, where they have this very complex story, this very in-depth, complex story, and you really have to focus. You kind of have to do homework, really, while you're watching the show to really understand what's going on. So for a first-time viewing, I was thoroughly entertained with this show. One of the last things I wanted to discuss before I just give my final thoughts on the whole series in general was there was actually end credits to this. And actually, before that, I want to back up the truck again. I never talked about the end credits sequence in the show. The end credits sequence is probably full. It is so full of Easter eggs, and it's so full of Godzilla celebration. There are so many callbacks. There are so many scenes and like flashes of old movies, of just characters showing up, and what's really interesting is they're all in their old school designs. They're not actually in this new singular point version like character design. They're actually in their old Showa like styles. And then you even see Burning Godzilla, like from off the top of my memory, I mean, you got to see like Biollante Rose form. You got to see Manda in his traditional form. King Caesar showed up, and King Caesar was actually biting down on Manda, which was actually really cool. You got to see there was like a Mega Nula, which actually there was a Mega Nula in the show when Yoon fell off Jet Jaguar. There was a point where he fell off and he was on Godzilla, and there were Mega Nula crawling on him. So once again, another Easter egg. You got to see Kiryu. There were the I don't remember what they were called. I think it was the GDF maybe in Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla and Tokyo SOS. You actually saw those characters, and you got to see some of the characters from Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, which was awesome. There like a lot of callbacks in this end credit sequence. It's amazing how much they fit in a small amount of time. So that was really cool. Then after the end credit sequence, we get this amazing cliffhanger, which pretty much says that there will be a season 2 of this, which I'm very excited about. But spoilers, really, seriously, if you have not seen this, I recommend going to see it right now, because I'm going to spoil it. We get to see Mechagodzilla being built, and what's so cool about this is it looks like they're doing the Kiryu story, where they're taking those bones, the old bones of Godzilla, and they're remaking him into this mechanical, this Mechagodzilla that we know. But what's really cool is it's the Showa design. It's the Showa design of Mechagodzilla, but being infused with the bones. So this is so many possibilities of what this means for the future of this series. I'm so excited. And what's really weird is that the guy, the professor guy, or the one who started all this, the one who they said who was supposedly trying to stop the catastrophe, he walks in all menacingly, and he looks up, and then he's grinning. So it's like apparently he's like the big bad guy, I guess. I'm not really sure. So they kind of raised more questions at the end, but I get it. They want people to tune into season 2, or whenever there'll be a season 2. So that's the episode. Now, overall, though, the show in general, like my thoughts on the series now that I've seen every episode. Once again, the story itself, I'm still fuzzy on. Like, I'm still a little bit confused on what really happened, how things happened, why things happened, some character motivations here and there. So that's just something that I have to do on my part. I either have to rewatch the show or just watch a video that explains it, basically. But in terms of a first viewing, I definitely loved the story in a way that I could follow it in simple terms. Like, it was engaging. I was interested to see where each episode was going to take the characters. I was interested to see where everything was going to, when the events were going to happen. The art style, I loved. I loved how this was a mix of traditional 2D animation, or like the anime style cartoon look, and then with the monsters, they kind of had that 3D element to it, which is kind of what Godzilla Monster Planet had. But I like how it was still like that traditional anime art style. I really loved it. And then the character designs themselves, the monsters and the humans. I think what was really cool about this is, even the human characters had very distinct character designs, and I love that because that makes it easier to differentiate them from each other. because a lot of the times in Godzilla movies, sometimes the characters just blend in. You know, you kind of have to really like look closely to see, okay, that's that character, because sometimes they're all just wearing business suits and it's really hard to tell, you know. But they actually have like if they were in silhouettes or whatever, you'd probably be able to tell who Yoon is, who Mei is, and all that. And yeah, the monster designs were great. There were no monster designs that I didn't like. I think Godzilla out of all of them, I mean, just looked amazing. Rodan kind of looked the most generic, but I mean, that's Rodan for par for the course. I mean, Rodan's just a pterodactyl kind of thing, so that's just him. But Jet Jaguar's all right. I mean, you know, it's still kind of weird to get used to him having those long, lanky arms and all that, but you know, whatever. And then, I mean, the Gamacris or the Megalon spider thing was really cool. Manda, we didn't really get to see Manda a lot. Like, we didn't get a full image of Manda, but we did see the dead carcass Manda on one of the episodes, so we got to at least see what he looked like, which is cool. But Godzilla, out of all of them, of course, Godzilla just looked great. I mean, all of his forms looked cool, but that final form was really awesome. Like, it does make me want to go and buy a figure of him, but, you know. So, really good stuff there. It'll be really interesting to see if X Plus does any of these designs. Like, it'd be really cool to see a figure for these guys. Not saying that I would buy it, but it would just be cool to see like a figure of this of Godzilla SP. In terms of the music was great. Like I said, I want a soundtrack of this really bad, and I want this show to be on DVD. Like, seriously, the Godzilla anime trilogy, the Monster Planet trilogy, whatever, that still has not come to the States in a Blu-ray format. So I'm really annoyed how Netflix has not released that in a physical form yet. I really hope that this anime gets a Blu-ray DVD release. Like, please give me season 1 on Blu-ray. I will buy it day one, please. And the soundtrack great. I want it. I want the soundtrack too. And yeah, in terms of, I think that's really it. I mean, everything was this was a really good show, and I think it's nice to see that Godzilla has been given another really fresh take on the franchise. And I just love what Toho is doing with Godzilla in these last couple projects that they've done. I'm not talking about the MonsterVerse, because that's America. I'm talking about Toho and what they've done since Shin Godzilla, the anime trilogy, and this. I think they have been, in terms of being unique, they've knocked it out of the park. I get that the Monster Planet trilogy was not received well, but there were still some honorable merits to that show too. So I'm very excited to see, and I hope that they do season 2. I can't wait for season 2 when they're going to do that, because it looks like Mechagodzilla is going to play a big part in it. Overall, it was just good. Like, this was a good show. It really, really was a solid show. I was engaged through the whole thing, and I can't wait to see what's going to come from this. I am hoping, though, for another Toho film. I do want to see another Japanese Godzilla film sometime in the future. I don't expect anything soon, but I do want to see, at least in the next maybe 10 years, I do want to see at least one new, Japanese Godzilla film. Because it seems like the MonsterVerse may be done with Godzilla, maybe not with Kong, but they may be done with Godzilla, so I don't know. But overall, this was amazing. If you're a fan of Godzilla, this is a no-brainer. If you're a fan of anime, I think it's very enjoyable still. And if you're just a fan of watching episodic series, I think it's also really good. So there's not a lot bad with this. The only negative I could say is that it's just hard to understand a lot of the stuff. If you're not really big brained when it comes to science and physics and theoretical mathematics, all this left brain stuff, it's going to be very hard to understand what's going on when you're doing your first viewing. Other than that, I think it's a very enjoyable ride. So there you go, guys. A very classic style vlog thoughts video, not review, of the Godzilla Singular Point anime. It was great. Can't wait for season 2. Thank you guys for watching this whole little mini series on my channel. I hope to do more, when Godzilla has more major releases, I'll do similar things like this. But I think the next Godzilla related content I'll be doing will actually be for next November, for Godzilla month 2021. So till then, I will see you guys later. Bye bye.